Chapter 2, Process Identification. In this chapter we discuss process identification. First, we look at the context of process identification. Second, we define process architecture. And third, we discuss different selection criteria for processes to be improved. Here you see where process identification is located in the BPM lifecycle. It is concerned with strategic aspects and infrastructure aspects of the overall process organization of the company. One of the major outcomes of process identification is the definition of a process architecture. The process architecture then helps to select suitable processes for improvement initiatives. Chapter 2, Section 1. The context of process identification. Process identification is very closely related to business strategy. Mintzberg provides a definition of business strategy as follows. He says, business strategy is an organizational perspective on setting and meeting business goals. These business goals define the overall direction of a business process management initiative in a company, and process identification helps to operationalize this business strategy. To understand this more concretely, have a look at the balanced scorecard as proposed by Kaplan and Norton. The balanced scorecard is a tool that helps to operationalize strategy. It distinguishes 4 different perspectives. On the left-hand side, you see that all the arcs in this diagram point towards long-term shareholder value. This is often, for many companies, one of the major financial goals. And there are various goals that contribute towards this overarching goal in the financial perspective, such as improving the cost structure, increasing asset utilization, expanding revenue opportunities, and enhancing customer value. In order to achieve these goals in the financial perspective, different concerns need to be kept in mind on the customer perspective. That is the second pillar. Here you see that a company needs to reflect upon product and service attributes such as price, quality, availability, selection, and functionality. Also, the relationships with partners in terms of servicing are important, and the brand image. To be successful on the customer side, the third pillar refers to the internal perspective. Here now you see how processes relate to strategy. This internal perspective is very much process-oriented. The operational processes are important for contributing towards customer satisfaction. Also the customer management processes, the innovation processes, and the regulatory and social processes. And in order to organize the internal perspective nicely, we need to build on the 4th pillar, which is the learning and growth perspective. Organization culture contributes to well-functioning of processes. Also leadership, alignment, and teamwork. We see here that processes are very important and at the heart of this in order to achieve long-term strategic objectives. Next to the strategic perspective, also the infrastructure perspective needs to be considered. Major concerns of infrastructure are discussed in relation to what is called enterprise architecture. Enterprise architecture is structured by various standards, such as the TOGAF standard. And the TOGAF standard distinguishes also various perspectives. And these perspectives describe what is there in a company and how these different entities in the company are related to each other. So there's the organizational perspective. This relates to actors, roles, and organizational structure. The product perspective distinguishes products and services and how they are related. TOGAF also emphasizes the business process perspective and the corresponding process architecture. The data perspective highlights informational entities and their relationships. The application perspective focuses on different pieces of software and their dependencies. And finally, there's the technical infrastructure that relates to computer hardware and communication networks. All these different perspectives provide essential pieces of infrastructure for a company. And there are the underlying foundation upon which business processes operate. So why do we need to manage process architecture at all? Why is something like process identification important? Part of the answer is that strategic relevance of different processes in a company changes over time. You may not be able to observe such changes in short periods of time, but over longer periods of time, these changes can be very drastic. An example of a company that illustrates this nicely is a company that is called Mannesmann. Mannesmann was a German company that was founded in the 19th century, focusing on steel pipes. In the 20th century, the operations of Mannesmann had changed and they more or less focused on cars, like the trucks that you see in the picture in the middle. The business of Mannesmann had further changed by the late 1990s, where Mannesmann was one of the first private companies to offer telecommunication services in the German market. And if you compare these different processes that are related to these products and services, you can clearly see that these are drastically different. And in the same way, the process architecture of this company had changed drastically over time. For this reason, process architecture has to be continuously revisited in order to make sure that it is still consistent with the strategic mission of the company.